Have you ever received a text message that instantly made you wonder, what does this actually mean? Maybe it's a guy who disappears for weeks and suddenly comes back. Maybe it's someone who puts in very little effort but still expects your attention. Or maybe it's the classic late-night text that somehow appears out of nowhere. The truth is, text messages often reveal much more than people realize. Welcome to the Attraction Code, where we decode the hidden psychology behind attraction, obsession, and relationships. By the end of this video, you'll understand the psychology behind 4 common texting behaviors, what they often reveal about someone's intentions, and why the way you respond can completely change the dynamic of a relationship. Let's start with the first text, the validation text. This is when someone invests very little effort, disappears for days, and then suddenly sends, "Miss you." Now that message might be genuine, but psychologically it's important to understand something. Not every expression of affection represents meaningful investment. Sometimes people seek reassurance. They want to know whether they still have access to your attention, whether they still occupy space in your mind. The key question isn't, did they miss me? The key question is, what actions are supporting those words? In relationships, consistency matters more than isolated moments of affection, because attraction is built through patterns, not occasional messages. Now let's move to the second text, the back from the dead text. This is when someone disappears for weeks and then suddenly says, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." Psychologically, this often happens when someone becomes curious about whether the connection is still available. Human beings tend to pay more attention to things they believe they might lose. The moment uncertainty enters the picture, interest often increases. This doesn't automatically mean the person wants a serious relationship. It simply means your absence may have become noticeable. And that's an important distinction. Missing access to someone and genuinely valuing someone are not always the same thing. Now let's talk about the third text, the low effort text. You know the one. "Hey," that's it. One word, no context, no investment, no direction. Why do people send messages like this? Because they're testing engagement. They're putting out the smallest possible amount of effort to see what comes back. And this happens more often than people realize. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as minimizing risk. If the conversation goes well, great. If not, they haven't invested much. The problem is that relationships thrive when both people contribute energy, curiosity, and effort, not when one person constantly carries the conversation. And finally, let's discuss the fourth text, the late night text. This is the message that arrives after hours of silence. Maybe there were even plans earlier in the day. Then suddenly, late at night, "Hey, what are you up to?" The psychology here is fascinating because behavior often reveals priorities. When someone consistently waits until the last possible moment to reach out, they're communicating something important, not necessarily through words, through timing. People often reveal how much they value an opportunity by the amount of planning and effort they invest in it. This doesn't mean every late night text is negative, but repeated patterns matter, and patterns tell us much more than isolated messages ever will. One of the biggest mistakes people make in dating is becoming overly focused on decoding every individual text. But attraction isn't built through single messages. It's built through consistent behavior over time. Anyone can send a sweet message. Anyone can say the right thing. What matters is whether their actions repeatedly support their words. The next time you receive a confusing text, don't ask yourself, "What does this message mean?" Ask yourself, "What pattern does this message fit into?" Because patterns reveal intentions far more accurately than isolated words ever can. And the people who make the best relationship decisions are often the ones who pay attention to behavior, not just promises. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the Attraction Code for more insights into attraction, dating, attachment, relationships, ghosting, mixed signals, and the psychology behind human connection.